Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar weekly discussion topic video. This week's topic is going to be all about the line turtles, a topic that I really enjoy talking about, though I haven't, I suppose, specifically done a video where I just full on talk about them specifically. I've mentioned them a lot in relation to discussing the origin of the Avatar, the whole human spirit conflict. I mentioned the Walada as well in my Fire Nation history lore video, but now's the time to just talk about the line turtles individually. They are, to my mind, probably the most interesting topic at the moment to talk about. Of course, there's stuff like regards to the ongoing story of Azula is really important. Ursa, the everything going on with Smoke and Shadow is interesting. What happens next with Korra? But in terms of a lore topic that is big and matters to the universe and learning about the history of the Avatar world, I think there's nothing more interesting right now than to speculate on the stuff that we don't know about the line turtles. And that's what I want to talk about here. What we do know about them, what we don't know about them, and just why they are such interesting things to talk about in this universe. So let's start with just what are line turtles. They are, hybrid animals, of course, combination of a lion and a turtle, as the name suggests, but they're also the largest known animal in the Avatar world. They are, I'm speculating here a little bit, but I think it's basically confirmed. They are the oldest known animal in the world as well, and probably the first physical being to exist in the Avatar world as well, because even the spirits refer to line turtles as ancient ones, and not just any spirits. Rava and I suppose Vatu as well would consider them just as ancient. And Rava and Vatu, by their very definition of what they are as spirits, had to have existed, from the beginning of existence, effectively. I'm not going to get into the whole what is the beginning of the world in Avatar and stuff like that, but we know, based on what Vatu says, that he, at the very least, has been around long enough to see humans evolve from whatever into being what they are currently. And that's big in and of itself, and so for the Rava to call the line turtle an ancient one is really important. It suggests a level of respect that the spirits have for the line turtles. Again, remember, the spirits had effectively control over the entire physical world. The only places that humans were safe were on the backs of line turtles, which in itself suggests that the spirits never attempted to get onto the backs of line turtles and, take over the humans or go and live with the humans to some extent, because they either are afraid of the power of the line turtles or respect them enough to not go near them, which is a relationship I'm going to get into later, line turtles and spirits. But for now, we're still discussing the various aspects of the line turtles. So of course they're huge creatures, and being combination lion and turtle, it means they can obviously float and just be like a turtle, and they're part water animals, but they're also part lion, so they can be on land as well. But because they are creatures that possess bending, they can also fly. They can thrive in the desert and stuff like that. I assume potentially there's the idea that they could live underwater if they have water bending or something like that, to just further adapt to their element and their kind of their powers. But as far as we know, they land, sea, air, they can do it. They can do it all effectively, and that in and of itself is interesting, because I think oftentimes we go okay, the four bending elements, the original benders of each element are, the dragons for firebending, the sky bison for airbending, the badger moles for earthbending, and then there's no real animal for waterbending, but we just say the moon, because, the tides, that makes sense. That's where the waterbenders mentioned they kind of got their techniques from, effectively. So it's really interesting to then think about the idea that wait, because the air line turtle can float, that means the line turtles can directly use their bending technique as well. Because like we never see the fire line turtle use fire bending as such, or anything like that. But the fact that the air line turtle is floating suggests that the element that they have is not just something they can give, it's something they can use as well. And so that means that there exists in the world like 2 animals that can firebend. And 3, I suppose, if you count humans in that as like 3 beings that can firebend. 3 for airbending, 3 for earthbending, and 2 for waterbending, but including the moon, I suppose, and stuff like that. But again, the moon and the way it relates to a spirit, and it's also like an actual kind of celestial object and stuff like that. It's confusing with the moon, but I suppose you could technically, if you really wanted to make it an animal, say that the line turtle is the original waterbending animal, perhaps because in terms of it being an animal, it is an aquatic animal, kind of being a turtle. So there's something there, perhaps. And like just like preparing for this video, that's something I kind of just realized there. This idea that I so often just like when I think of firebending animals, only think of dragons. But now having the origin story, thinking that wait, line turtles can do it too. But really, when you really get down to it, the line turtle is the original animal, the original bender for energy bending. Fundamentally, that is their technique. It's cool that there are specific line turtles that have an individual bending skill, but they all possess energy bending, the ability to, bend the energy within themselves, within other people, and grant them the same power that they have. And that is really interesting, that they establish through their line turtle's most famous quote from the end of ATLA, that in the era before the Avatar, we bent not the elements but the energy within. So fundamentally, their powers are based in energy bending before the specific elements. So that, like, if there was an origin of bending power, it is energy bending at a base level, and that's their main power. That's the power that they give to Aang to defeat Ozai. It's not a inherently violent technique. It is a bending of literal energy, and it's a giving and a taking ability. So that's very interesting in and of itself, and it's obviously the thing that they did for the humans was that they lent them the power of bending and then took it away from them when they were done with it. And so the line turtles have clearly granted Aang, at the very least, the power to take bending away in the same way that they can. We don't know the specifics of how it works, but it's I suppose their ability to manipulate energy, or chi as it's kind of referred to in the Avatar world, in relation to the energy of living beings. And they can manipulate the chi and the way it works within a person, and like the chakra paths and stuff like that. But that's me getting a bit too specific into the bending aspect of things, but I'm sure I'll bring that back later on in the video. There's a lot of stuff I want to say about the line turtles, so my apologies if I'm just rambling all over the place with this. There's a lot to cover here, and I haven't really taken notes. I'm basically going completely off the top of my head here. So I think the next thing I want to talk about is probably one of my final things about them being benders, is the idea that there are specific line turtles that have specific powers. We know that there are many line turtles. It's not just one like we saw in ATLA. There are multiple ones, and there are multiple ones for each element. I think that's absolutely confirmed. So that's interesting of itself to just think about them as like animals and how they are born and stuff like that. Like, is what element they are genetic, or is it random? And then what is the origin of the line turtles with relation to where did they get the elements from? If what they're suggesting in their line about energy bending is true, that at a base level the line turtles are just energy benders, where did the whole specific thing of elements come from in the Avatar world, and why is it related to the lion turtles and these other animals so specifically? And that sort of thing. Like, is it almost meant to be this idea that the lion turtles, through energy bending, like, themselves learned from the dragon's fire bending, and that's why perhaps, you know, the fire lion turtles almost look a little bit kind of like dragons in the way they look, and something like that. The way air lion turtles float is almost like sky bison, and that sort of thing. Or is it just a thing specific to the lion turtles themselves? And going off that, the fact that they only can hold one element themselves, that this is a very hard rule of the Avatar world, that it seems like one specific being can only hold the power of one element within themselves at any one time. So that applies not just to, like, Juan as a human, and all humans only be able to bend one element. It also seems to apply to the lion turtles themselves, in that if they are so ancient and so powerful, why isn't it not just that as energy benders, all lion turtles have all elements and can grant any human any of the elements? So it's a clear thing that the whole idea of the Avatar is that it's unique and powerful because it's the combination of a physical being and a spirit being combined at harmonic convergence when there's an insane amount of energy going through, and that gives the kind of combination being the power to hold multiple elements. And that's what makes the Avatar so special, of course, and the just surplus of energy they can hold. And of course with Juan and Rava it was a little bit different as well, because Rava, they kind of established that a spirit can hold like multiple elements within them but can't use it. So spirits have the energy within them to hold the power of an element, but are unable to use that specific element themselves. It appears like that a spirit can use bending, but it has to be through, like, effectively the possession of a human. We see that obviously through Unavatu. Basically Vatu takes over Unalaq. We also see it with the Avatar state defense mechanism, where effectively the spirit takes over to protect the kind of Avatar. So it's an interesting thing there, that like living beings from the physical world can only hold one element, but the spirits being basically being made of energy, like spirit bendings, how it sort of relates to energy bending and stuff like that. It's a very interesting topic to get into, but I suppose that's going into something very different. But I just think it's a very interesting thing to note that as powerful as the lion turtles are, that they themselves are also limited to one element. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, and let's get into then some of the story stuff with them. So all we know is really just prior to the Avatar coming into being, spirits inhabited the physical world as well as the spirit world. So much so that they effectively had most of the land mass of the world under their control. The humans were at danger going out into the spirit wilds, the place of the world where the spirits inhabited, and so the only places where the humans were safe were on the backs of lion turtles. And this in itself suggests a connection between lion turtles and humans, where there was some sort of an agreement to where the lion turtles would stay in a certain place or only move at certain times, and allow, you know, humans to live on them and protect them from the spirits. It's really interesting because, again, like the lion turtles are animals, but they are special animals in that they are sentient. They are much more sentient than other animals in the Avatar world, because they can communicate somewhat telepathically, things like, with humans and speak their language. They understand things and, you know, can use their abilities to give and take their ability, bending away, very effectively. So they are intelligent animals, different than, you know, say a kimono rhino or something like that. That is an animal, you know, intelligent in its own specific way, but not, you know, like fully like sentient, like you would call like a human. The line turtles are on that level. So there's straight away like there's established that like really the only animals that humans could really like have this sort of a bond with is the line turtles. But why do they choose to protect the humans from the spirits? Why show such interest in humans? And like that ultimately is probably the root of the like the story of the line turtles. Why are they so connected with humans? Why did they protect humans from spirits and go as far as to like grant them effectively the power of their element whenever they wanted once they gave it back? What was the aim here? Like the aim here wasn't to side with the humans to defeat spirits, because very specifically the line turtles didn't want humans to just be given the technique and still be able to live in protection on their back. That once the humans decided to take the element forever, the line turtles then left, assuming the Avatar could take over. So to some extent, you can say that the line turtles performed the duties of the Avatar before the Avatar came into being, in the sense of keeping balance between the two important races of beings in the world, the spirits and the humans, the key beings on both sides of this thing. And it again sort of suggests that the line turtles are this kind of, ancient animal that is also spiritual because of its power, and so is kind of respected by both sides of the kind of battle. And I suppose it relates a little bit to, I suppose, the line turtles' relationship with spirits, in that Rava doesn't seem to have any problem talking to the line turtle. She doesn't seem to be afraid of them or anything like that. She seems to speak to it quite respectfully, and almost to the point of like the higher being in the situation is the line turtle. And this is the same Rava who, basically at the point where she speaks to the line turtle, is completely against humans. She kind of is still in that period of her kind of life where she is anti-human. She sees the humans as a lower life form. Spirits are better. So why is she then like being so respectful to another physical being that's an animal, but just because it's the line turtle? There's something there that we don't know that is utterly fascinating, that I really want to know about. It's probably going to be one of those stories we never get, but I just think it's really interesting that Rava would be so respectful towards the line turtle, and ultimately like be convinced in part by the line turtle to help Juan and start that journey. And it's going back to the topic I'm talking about here, the relationship between line turtles and humans, and then also with spirits. They don't seem to take a side in this conflict as it's happening. They just help humans to survive, because to some extent they feel, I suppose the idea is that the line turtles feel that if they don't do this, they don't act as like the homes of the humans will be wiped out, and that is not a good thing for the world, and not a good thing for the balance of the world. That to some extent the line turtles understand and realize that what needs to happen is it needs to be the case that humans and spirits live together, because only with them living together, or at least both existing, having a key being on both sides of the physical spirit divide, is important to keep balance in the world. And as I said, relating to the line turtles as being kind of performing that role of the Avatar, it really seems to work when you really think about it. That's what they're doing. They're keeping humans alive during a period where the humans were very much kind of not as powerful as spirits. And it's only bending that gives humans any sort of a chance against spirits, because of the fundamental mismatch of kind of power in general of both species. That in general, any spirit is more powerful than any human, but you give humans bending all of a sudden, and there's a chance for them to protect themselves. And again, there's this idea that, as I said before, spirits can contain the power of an element within themselves, but are unable to use it, whilst humans are actually able to use the element, but they're limited to using it one at a time. We know spirits can be hurt by bending, though it takes someone being very powerful to kill a spirit enough for you to force it to change forms and kind of be reborn again, as the spirits do, instead of dying. So there's that. And then, like, you have to, I think Unalaq's technique and the whole spirit bending thing seems to be a primarily water bending technique, but I wouldn't be like so quick to just fundamentally go, oh, spirit bending is only related to water bending. I think it's probably a technique that any bender could use. Like, you just create a spiral of fire around a spirit and do a similar thing, make it spiritual. You could perform a similar technique, the same with air, the same with earth, I think. So I think the spirit bending technique is probably a technique closer to energy bending than anything else. It's like a spiritual bending technique, though Unalaq doing it does seem to hint at it being more about water bending. But I suppose that's a topic for another day as well. Like, why is that so specific to water bending, when it's a technique purposefully used to take out spirits? Yeah. So back to the whole human spirit line turtle issue. They seem to be fine with just the humans living on top of them, until obviously Juan happens, and he obviously basically steals the power of firebending and keeps it, and is about to be punished. And like, the humans are have a relationship with the line turtles where clearly, like, they have elected rulers to rule over the line turtles, but that they do fundamentally have the line turtle as this kind of being of wisdom, where like the trial of Juan effectively happens in front of a line turtle, and he's kind of getting almost punished by the line turtle for what he did, and he's banished, but he pleads with the line turtle to be allowed to keep firebending to protect himself in the spirit wilds, and the line turtle agrees to it. So they're somewhat reasonable, but they seemed very, like, they didn't really want to give fire to people forever. And it's only with Juan actually being the Avatar that, that the line turtles decide that it's time for them to leave. Like, let me get the quote here from the end. The world is entering a new age. Our time protecting mankind is over. We will no longer give humans the power of the elements. So, basically, with the Avatar, they're basically saying the era of the line turtles is over. It is now the era of the Avatar in terms of, I suppose, who's keeping balance in the world. They specifically refer to it as their time protecting mankind. So to the line turtles, mankind is important. We don't know for what reason. They clearly have some sort of a sense of like that mankind has a destiny in terms of keeping balance in the world. Maybe they think that the Avatar was something that had to happen. And I think it fundamentally comes down to it that the story of the Avatar world on a grand level, not character specific or anything like that, is finding a perfect peace between humans and spirits. I think that's probably the end goal of like the entire series, just finding balance between these two beings who have been apart and at conflict for so long. And it's the only thing that fundamentally makes sense based on what we know right now. Why the line turtles would protect humans from spirits, but not fight on behalf of spirits, and not fight on behalf of mankind and be antagonistic towards the spirits, but more be this kind of respected body by both that, then decides to leave, because humans now with bending, now with the Avatar, now have a chance to, take control back over their own land, the physical world, and maybe at some point down the line the Avatar can bridge the gap between them and bring them back into balance. Now you sort of question then, why after so long of basically being out of the whole world, apart from clearly a couple of times of them them appearing before other avatars. Like we have that image of like from the library of Aang with an image of a lion turtle appearing before what looks like a firebender avatar. So clearly Aang isn't the first avatar who's had the lion turtles appear before them. That it's happened gradually over the course of time, the past 10,000 years. They've appeared a few times. But why did they specifically appear again most recently, the last time we saw the lion turtles, with Aang? Obviously it was a big moment in terms of, I suppose, the balance of the world. If the Avatar doesn't beat the Fire Lord here, that means that the world is going to go out of balance, because the world is just going to be in control of the Fire Nation. The nature of the world is going to be ruined with what Ozai had planned to do. That, I suppose, the Lion Turtles have now taken up the role of supporting the Avatar, who is fulfilling the role of the Lion Turtles from long in the past. It's the only explanation that I have, and definitely in the comments let me know what your thoughts are on all the stuff I'm saying here. But I think we're getting towards the end of the video here. The only real thing then to say is that we have little bits of information which is kind of unsourceable anymore. This specific bit of information comes from the old Nickelodeon website that was up while Avatar: The Last Airbender was airing, so you can't actually find it anywhere anymore. But that specifically said that the lion turtle that appears before Aang is the last lion turtle, the last living lion turtle, because they had been hunted to near extinction over the past 10,000 years since them leaving at the end of Beginnings Part 2, and obviously Aang, the one appearing before Aang. So that in itself is interesting, because they are so big, so massive. I would question how even an elite squad of benders could take down a lion turtle, let alone like multiple ones, and hunt them to extinction. It's a similar thing, I suppose, with the dragons, but the dragons aren't so massive, aren't so strong that you couldn't believe it. But like, these things are the size of an island. I don't care how powerful of a bender you are. We've never seen attacks strong enough to do that much damage to a lion turtle. So, to me, some crazy stuff had to have happened in the past to be able to kill a lion turtle like that. And especially if it is indeed humans that did this, and which we assume has to be the case, how must they have felt? Like, the lion turtles protecting humanity for so long, yet humanity is kind of responsible for wiping them out, and it's really only the Avatar that they're kind of loyal to and kind of trust. So there's a kind of tragic story of the lion turtles, basically devoting themselves to keeping balance in the world, but ultimately being kind of nearly wiped out by humans. And going forward, I suppose, with the lion turtles, will we ever see them again? We very specifically never had Korra meet a lion turtle. She knows about them from the past now, of course, and probably knows from potential off-screen conversations with Aang that he met one, and that's where energy bending comes from. That's why she kind of has it. But you then kind of have to think about, where is the series going? I think if there's something that Korra needs to accomplish still, it is trying to fix the relationship between humans and spirits. Have it not just be a case of, okay, we're not directly at war now, and that's fine, but have it be actually friendly terms, that the two sides can help each other. That's something we don't have right now. At the end of Book 4, the spirits refused to help Korra, help Republic City, the place where most of those spirits had chosen as their home for the past 2 years, and they still wouldn't help protect a place that was important to them. That's how can humans trust spirits if they're just going to abandon them like that? So something still needs to happen there, and I would like the lion turtle to appear, and for the Avatar and the lion turtle maybe working together to really bring a lasting peace between humans and spirits, and that be the big accomplishment of the Avatar world, as I'm kind of speculating here that the fundamental goal of this series, on a huge, like, looking at the series as a whole level, is finding a complete balance between humans and spirits. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to say here. You know, the fact that this one-line turtle appeared out of nowhere as well is probably the last, I suppose, technique type thing I want to talk about with the line turtles. It appears out of nowhere. It was able to do something enough to Aang to kind of draw him to the island, to himself. So the line turtles seem to have some sort of power where clearly they talk to Aang, like, through his mind. You know, they can also speak. That they have some sort of an effect where they can, I'm not going to say mind control, but, you know, draw someone to them for some reason. And that probably is probably one of the more interesting aspects, because, like, Aang didn't choose to just go onto this island. He was kind of drawn there by, like, the sound of the line turtle. But, you know, that's about all I really want to say in this video. There's a lot we don't know about the line turtles. There's a little bits we do know. I like to think I gave you a good few questions to think about with some of my own theories on the line turtles. But yeah, it's definitely been one of the most fun of these Avatar discussion videos to actually talk about. Going super in depth on it, so, like, I apologize to you guys who maybe had no idea what I was talking about for most of the video, but I think some people who are super hardcore into the lore are going to really like this video. So yeah, as I said in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the line turtles, what your thoughts are on some of the stuff I said about them, my theories, and what are your own theories on them. But yeah, for now, that's been this week's discussion video. Also, let me know what the next